Good evening. I'd like to call the program committee meeting to order this evening, September 25th, 2023. It is 6:01 p.m. And if we could start, please, with everyone standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We did not have a need for an executive session prior to this meeting. So, Mr. Furman, would you please start with attendance?
Sure. Mrs. Berger, Mrs. Boyer, Mr. Clausby,
Here.
Mr. Galazello,
Here.
Mr. Momert,
Here.
Mr. Plessick, Mrs. Weaver,
Here.
Mrs. Yingst,
Here.
Mr. Zimmerman.
Here.
6 present, 3 absent.
Thank you. Next, we will have a hearing of persons who wish to address the board. For those of you watching from home, everyone in attendance is in the administration and will be addressing us at some point this evening. So I do not believe there is anyone else. So we shall move forward to the administrative goals presentation and discussion.
Dr. Cromer, do you see an attachment for the goals that could be projected?
Under administrative goals.
If you go back to the main agenda manager.
You could. Really?
Yeah, would you mind? I apologize. We should have done that ahead of time. Does anyone else know their login?
I would hope that the director of data would know the password. Oh, yay!
Should be under-
There we go.
If you start with 23, 24, am I listed there? Dr. Cromer?
No, yours are not.
No, it's last year.
Or put under administrative performance. 23, 24. Get them posted if that's okay. The board, mine were sent to you about a little over a week ago in the weekly FYI. So I'm going to give an overview of my goals, and then from there, we're going to turn it over to elementary, and we're going to follow the outline that's above. And I'll be as thorough as I can with mine. My format's the same. They're just listed differently because you are looking at the administrators collectively, and then you'll also present mine individually. But I have 4 goals this year. The first goal is I will design a teacher development program, also known as the Grow Your Own model, that's been shared with the board in previous years to provide a pool of qualified candidates for the district to consider for employment in an ever-growing teacher shortage. This goal has already actually started working with the LIU, and it's called, oh my God, I can't think of the name right now. It's escaping me. Bloom Boards. And it is a company that works with universities throughout the country, and they're working with Point Park College in in Pittsburgh. And we're also looking at forming some partnerships with local universities and York College to begin that process where we can identify programs that we could offer to our teachers so they could work for us, not to our teachers, excuse me, paraprofessionals or other interested people who may work for us during the day and attend school at night. That's local districts, universities, colleges. The IU is looking to also expand because we believe that together we can offer a larger pool, which would make it more attractive to offer a cohort format in this area or possibly over on the other side of York County. A final presentation of this program will be presented to you as a board at the end of the year. Hopefully, we will have a pilot running by the end of this year, but if not, a formal pilot running next year. It all depends on the organization, and the willingness of our local districts and universities to pilot this with us. We are confident there's a lot of interest in it, and if nothing else, Bloom boards will be starting with us and working. We're also looking at working at an associate's program with Harrisburg Area Community College to increase our paraprofessional pool of teachers, or excuse me, employees that will then possibly go on to another university to earn their degree in teaching. So we're working on that for the coming year. It's our hope to provide an additional opportunity for people to not only further their career, but also to benefit the district and districts around us with an increase in the available substitutes and or permanently certified teachers. So that's goal number one. Goal number two is oversight of the building renovation program. This I work in concert with Mr. Mummert and Mr. Osborne. As you know, the renovation project has started. That budget includes working on a biweekly basis with them to attend construction meetings, value engineering, and monitoring the district compliance with the approved budgets. Obviously attend those meetings when schedule permits. Meet with the director of facilities, high school administration, and business manager to provide quarterly updates to the Southwestern community on the progress of the high school renovation project. And updates will be provided through the use of the social media accounts, and also working with the high school administration to keep the faculty at the high school updated on the status of the renovation and progress of the renovation as we work toward completion in 2 years. One thing I will note, after this goal was written and submitted to you, Mr. Murdell and a team of students are using our drone to take, I think it's bi-weekly video of the project, and we'll be posting that to our YouTube channel at the high school, and we'll also provide links on our website for the community to see the progress. So I was very excited about that and grateful to Mr. Murdell and his students. So while that's not listed as a goal in here, it will be provided additionally to our community on a more regular basis. Quarterly basis, we're providing more of a large scale update as opposed to, dare I say, room by room. So the third goal for the year is transition of the administrative team. As my team, our team here knows, gentlemen to my left and many people out there have entered into new positions within the district and responsibilities. So, and each one of those carries a major role. So I'll be working with the central office team, including myself, Dr. Friel, Dr. Hum, Dr. Seibel, Dr. Cromer, to talk about our transition as we now work together, but also meeting with our, what we call our second floor admin team. How is that going? That's the business department, food service, maintenance, and technology. And also meeting with the principals on a monthly basis to determine how that process is going. In addition, I'm meeting with our new assistant principals to talk about their transition to the district and how we can support them. We met once and we meet again, basically in a month or every other month, depending on their needs. And then finally, we'll provide a report to all of you regarding the transition and the update and the feedback that we received from all of the district administrators about the transition. And obviously, if there's any concerns, we could also talk with teaching staff, support staff, et cetera, et cetera. So that would be the third goal. And then the final goal is reinstituting an employee recognition, positive workplace culture. Working on this with the team, but the idea is to create, in the military, they call them courage coins. I saw this presentation over the summer and I thought it would fit nicely. Courage coin is used to recognize our employees. It's being designed as we speak with the company. It is a two-sided, it's about the size of a $50. It's around service, integrity, and excellence. It will also bear the Mustang, running Mustang on one side and our district compass on the other. And one side will have excellence, integrity, service. The other side will have once a Mustang, always a Mustang. Once I have the prototype, I can share that with the board at a future meeting so you can see it. It will actually be a drawing of it. It won't be the actual coin. We'll recognize them at every other month, beginning in November. The nomination process is still being worked out. However, the process will be nominated by their peers and reviewed by a committee. They'll be brought to the board for you to recognize during those designated meetings. And it is our hope that this will grow into a positive way to tell our story about the outstanding staff members we have. And each department, every building level, not every building, but every building level, elementary, middle school, high school, will be eligible for nominations, as well as every department, transportation, food service, maintenance, custodial, paraprofessionals, support staff, because we believe it's important to recognize all of our members of our team. And then we'll give you a report and bring you a final a report at the end of the year of all who were recognized, and we're pretty excited about that. So questions about any of those goals as they relate to my office in the upcoming year?
In reference to the Design a Teacher program, I think that sounds fantastic. I actually got the opportunity to speak with someone last week who said that she had asked about it and was very excited at the idea, and she is currently working for us. So I think that is awesome. As it stands, and please correct me if I'm wrong, a paraprofessional does not have to have a teaching license to be a paraprofessional, correct?
That is correct.
So with a grow your own program, is the expectation then that we are working with them to get that teaching license? Or is it, okay, so it's not a workaround, it's still the process that all of our licensed teachers have gone through. It's just working with our district to do that.
And working with colleges and universities to design programs that might be, if you recall, again, this is in no way saying this has been established, and I'm
Right.
not saying that a university or college would agree to this. But at the last meeting, your college had provided a discounted rate for our graduate students. It's our hope, working with the IU, if we could provide cohorts and maybe even provide our own staff to teach it, your college wouldn't, or let's just say Millersville, whoever, wouldn't have to provide the space at their university. And if we could enter into some sort of adjunct professorship, there might be a reduced cost for our staff to provide it, so the per credit cost would go down. Those are some of the models that have been used. And then the paraprofessionals part that you're speaking of, working with HAC to do that. And that's in a very infancy stage as well. And that's why it will more than likely take the remainder of this year to establish, but we have to have that conversation. Because right now, as you know, we told you in the past, Pennsylvania is offering more emergency certifications than they are teacher certifications. And that's a recipe for a major shortage in the coming years. So a lot of districts have expressed interest. Right now, I believe we're one of 5 that are working with the IU to do this.
Is there a dependent number of participants to make it worthwhile for the local universities to really champion this and really get it? And I know you answered that we can use our own staff, but we still need that local university's oversight to be able to make sure that we're in compliance.
Yes, and that's why I believe it's more effective to pool our interests as a group in the IU than opposed to us doing it individually.
Okay.
Because there does reach a point where, it's probably around 10 for it to be worthwhile. So I would suspect that between the superintendents and the schools in this area, the local IU, I would suspect, I've known with your comment and our conversations about other people that are interested, I know we have at least 2 or 3 right here in our district. Factored it out by 5, we may have as many as 15 right out of the gate.
Where do we stand right now in terms of the other local jurisdiction or local school districts in terms of their thoughts on this?
Well, the meeting we had with the IU, they were very interested.
Thank you.
So in the employee recognition goal we discussed briefly today, I just wanted to highlight for the board, we also, I asked that we explore, along with the Courage Corners, which I think is a great way to acknowledge our excellence among, from within the people that are saying, hey, you're doing a great job. I think we should basically sweeten the pot to some effect, whether that's additional budget to that area, whoever we're awarding, whether it be additional supplies or something to that effect. I think we should be exploring another way we can supplement, along with the Courage Coins, a way we can acknowledge the excellence that's occurring, and it would go towards, your department, your room, your area that as additional support. I know a lot of times those that are truly vested put in their own time and money into it. And I think just giving a little bit of that back along with the acknowledgement might be something we could explore. And I would ask you guys to maybe suggest ways that we could couple with the Courage Coin that would be most appreciated so that we could best support what you're doing out there.
That's an excellent suggestion, and our nominating committee can also, if you, with the team that's here, if you could talk to some of the folks, we could talk about that as an option to present to the board along with when the presentation is made to the employee. Yeah.
Okay.
If this time I'd ask elementary to present.
So I'll be speaking to our first goal that focuses on college readiness. And this goal is to focusing on supporting our ELA, English Language Arts curriculum. We've had a lot of changes within our core resources for our teachers during this school year. So we want to support that change process. So the goal is to develop and empower a leadership team that collaboratively facilitates the implementation of phase 1 of the ELA core resources. So looking at how we can support our teachers while they're implementing Core 95, collaborative classroom. We have a pilot team for kindergarten and first grade that are implementing collaborative classroom, looking at how that resource is being used within the classrooms. And then we have HMH into reading that's being piloted in second grade through fifth grade within ELA. And part of that, going along with that, we're also providing reading specialists with level 2 letters trainings to give them background knowledge and to make sure they're able to support our teacher through those processes and those curricular changes. And then just making sure they're getting ongoing professional development about those different core resources so that there's a successful implementation.
How many reading specialists do we have at each building right now?
So
In the elementary level, excuse me.
Yeah, it varies by building. At West Manheim, we have 3 reading specialists.
At Bearsville, we have 3 reading specialists, basically Title I. Then Park Hills, we have 3 also.
And then we have
And
one.
then 1 at Manheim.
Is there a state standard per student capita as to how many we should have per need based?
Not that I'm aware of. I know that thinking about some of the other districts, we do have a better ratio than other schools where they're sharing.
Okay. Thank you. Have you liked the new Core 95 program? I mean, we're a month into it at this point, but
We've had really good feedback from the teachers, and you had the opportunity to see that in one of our classrooms, and the students are engaged, and we're hoping to see next week.
I will say as a parent, just briefly, we did receive what I'm assuming is like the parent handout that can be paired with what they're going to be learning for the week, which is really quite nice to be able to know in advance what's going to be covered. For many reasons, if parents have questions on the topics, if they don't understand something themselves, or just for that dinner time table talk, hey, you were learning about this week. How did that go? Have you covered this? And I think that is really nice, because when you have the kid that every day is fine, it gives you a little bit more to work with at the dinner table. And I think that that's really neat, because then our level of engagement as parents into what they're doing feeds their fire to want to learn more. So I think that's very neat.
Good evening. So Dr. Bonds and I will be doing our second goal. And as Mr. Combs said, the first goal is about college readiness. And then, so building on that, we are doing career readiness. And so the goal statement is we're developing a plan to foster relationships with the community, stakeholders, those folks that are in the community, to increase our job-related skills and increase our student exposure. and looking at all those different career options. So just to build on that, we want to develop a plan for school counselors to update the 339 plan. We've already started that phase, sit down with our counselors, looking at how we can build on this. And then the second part, we wanted to get together with the Chamber of Commerce, Hanover Chamber of Commerce, and reaching out to the stakeholders and seeing what we can do as far as what kind of workers are they looking for. You know, what are those skills? And that's what we want to pass on to our students.
We're also looking to hold an event called Careers on Wheels. And this is really to build awareness of our local workforce and give our elementary students exposure. We're also looking to develop a tool for students to assess their own awareness before and after their exposure to certain job-related skills and career options. And finally, our objective is to expose students to various job career components, like schedules, training, location, salary, and conditions that are needed for soft skills in the employment area.
So we're really excited about this. Yes, elementary is young to start thinking about a career, but it's all about exploration. We don't want to take anything away from middle school as far as, they have a career fair in 6th grade, they do the college visits, they do the workplace visits, but we feel we got to start sooner with our elementary age students and start exploring those avenues. You just never know where it's going to lead.
So as the York Tech rep, I often go back to that. So in exploring the career ready, have you guys examined where we supplement or where we coordinate with them as far as possible avenues of what we can prepare for and what we can send over to York Tech? As far as coordinating with them, have you considered that?
Yeah, we haven't looked at that because, and I know this, and I'm sure Dr. Smith can talk a little bit more, where they come into the middle school and they do a presentation and talk with our middle school age students. So they can start applying, in that 8th grade year and 9th grade year. So I don't know, you could go back and forth on this, Matt, as far as is 5th grade too young to start
Right.
thinking about those things. We definitely don't want to waste anyone's time, don't want to waste, your school technology or a student's time because time is precious. But I think it would be worth exploring with the York School of Technology, and Dr. Burkhardt is the, superintendent on record, as far as do they have something where they're going into elementary schools? And maybe it's not looking at specific programs, but just coming and doing exposure.
Right. That's what I'm suggesting. We could tie in with that very easily and maybe explore, hey, these are the programs that do have in place already if you do have an interest here. And if they have interest elsewhere, then we should be looking, okay, what do we need to develop? But we do have something in place started, right? So I really appreciate the career readiness part. I think it's where employment, we need a lot of more employment in career jobs.
And to go on the Careers on Wheels, main focus of that is to give students exposure to careers that maybe don't require a path onto college.
Right,
So,
exactly.
And it's highlighting our local businesses and tying that in. We'd like to see our parents out there highlighted. So that was the other main focus of that event.
Great. Thank
Has
you.
the district ever done like career day at elementary school where moms and dads come into the building and, or anyone that's in a career? I remember it being some of my favorite days in elementary school, and I didn't know if the district ever did if we've ever done anything like that.
Yeah, I've been at Bearsville this is my 8th year now. We haven't done anything like that at Bearsville.
Okay.
I'm going to ask Dr. Cromer because he might have the seniority there as far as anything you know of.
So I would say early on in my career, probably right before Mr. Klansik joined our team, we did have a career fair, if you will, for our 5th grade families or 5th grade students, and we had something like that. But what we noticed, or at that time, the middle school was also doing a career fair at that time, and it was difficult to pull in families for both fairs. So it was we tried to look at a different path to talk about careers for the elementary and not necessarily bring in the presenters, because sometimes we're pulling from the same
Right.
group of people. And so we decided at that time to allow the middle school to take up that part? And then how can we embed it in a different way at the elementary? So it probably was 8 years ago, 9, right before Mr. Clancy had started.
Is the fifth grade doing BizTown this year? Okay, wonderful.
Remind me to let you, I have received information today from the chamber about a workforce development day. And although it's aimed at our workforce, I think it might be valuable to go along with this goal. So before you guys leave tonight, let me know and I'll give you the information. Okay.
So we should see you after the meeting.
Yes, sir. If you want the information.
Thank you. Is there any other questions? Thank you.
Or be able, so we could get the microphone pretty well. Can you hear me? I don't sound like it's coming out. Good evening, everyone. This is Chris Druss, and I are here to talk about our life readiness goal. And our goal involves creating and developing the optimal learning environment for the whole child. And this involves implementing strategies for Tier 1 to address social, emotional, and academic needs. And I know you're aware of the Rhythm app that the students are about to go full-fledged with. Beginning October 1st, our students will have at least 3 days signing into it, and we'll be addressing some of their needs with the use of emojis. So they'll have a series of questions, and they'll be able to click the appropriate emoji. And what that does, it gives teachers immediate feedback on the pulse of their classroom, but it also gives administrative-wise for us and our team in the office to keep an eye on any of those students who may be struggling, who may need extra support, or just a simple hello for the day just to check in to see how they're doing. A couple other things that we're doing is one is the responsive classroom training for all staff. And part of that is like a morning meeting opportunity where you build every day when you have this morning meeting, you build a sense of community, you establish relationships among students, from student to student and teacher to teacher. And many times out of those morning routines and everyday functions come amazing conversations and connections that you can make with kids, because we all want to feel a part of something. And we want that classroom to feel like a community and a safe space for them. One of the other bullets that we have is Slumberkins, which we're doing with our younger students. And that is a program that uses common knowledge, common vocabulary, so that if a student, for example, is feeling frustrated, then they learn to do like a breathing technique, like rainbow breathing and mountain breathing, that you can also do with friends, your families. So we're learning those things, and that's even across special areas, so that we're using common vocabulary and some of those simple common strategies to help them. Any questions?
That sounds wonderful.
Just to point out, Mrs. Billman is at a Mannheim event this evening, so she is attending to her school, and just wanted to make sure everybody was aware that she wasn't out enjoying this beautiful evening.
Kindergarten back to school night.
Thank you.
If I could just make one other mention, Dr. Friel did not present his goals tonight, because when Dr. Friel was approved as the assistant superintendent earlier this summer, his goals were approved with that contract. So he got a free pass tonight.
Be the only one. I realize that.
And yet he's still sitting here.
Middle school.
Good evening, everyone. We have 2 goals that we'll present tonight that we work closely. The first one is really closely in conjunction with the high school. We work very closely with Dr. Friel on these goals as well, being our secondary supervisor. So the first goal is the one that's in conjunction with the high school. And we started this summer, and we took a look at our processes and systems that are in place, our time schedules, our fiscal student supports, that would allow for increased instructional leadership capacity. By that, I mean that would give us an opportunity to help buildings more. and not dealing with as much discipline in our offices. Which of course it gives us then the time to support teachers and learning. And our goal really is to continue to reduce our officers' referrals, and our performance goal is to reduce those by 5% based on 22-23 data in the following year. So we really started this summer. We took a look at our discipline matrices. Obviously, when you're dealing with developmental levels of middle school and high school, there's some nuances to that. We want to be as consistent as possible with our discipline matrices. So we looked at that over the summer and tidied those up a little bit. We're working closely with our district technology team to identify a reporting system for discipline. We'll have that recommended to the board by 2024. We're also looking at a way to have our teachers actually enter the referrals online through the Sapphire system, just to increase efficiency with that. And then the third part of that is working with the communication plan to outline discipline expectations at the beginning of the year. I know we make specifically in middle school, we meet with all of our kids by grade level. We go over what our expectations are. We will have an additional meeting with them at the year, and we'll reinforce those expectations. We'll converse with our teachers at that point in time, and we'll identify some areas of growth, and we'll talk through those with our kids and things that they can do better. Generally speaking, as we really do a deep analysis of our referrals, and we'll try to identify is an issue in the hallway, is an issue in the classroom, is it a bathroom, is it a cafeteria issue, is it a playground issue, and based off that, we will make recommendations with our team to how to address that, but then also making sure our kids are aware of where those issues are and kind of work with them to address that. We will collaborate and review our progress monthly. So Keith and I have meetings monthly with Dr. Creel where we'll talk about those numbers. We'll take a look at our discipline data monthly, and again, take a look at that. We made some adjustments to our schedules this year to make sure they align. There actually was a little bit of a stagnant schedule between middle school and high school, and now we are aligned and starting at the same time and discussing at the same time. And so that helps with some of the before the school and after school things that can potentially happen. And we're going to really work with our new teachers. One of the things, over the past few years, with COVID, teachers that are currently brand new teachers really had a very challenging time. They didn't have all the same experiences going out and student teaching that you would typically have. So fair or unfair, they're coming in with less experience than what teachers may have come in with a few years ago. So we're really focusing on some classroom management strategies with our new teachers to help support them. And then we will continue to work on our tier 2 strategies through our STRIDE program. Our STRIDE program was kind of reconfigured last year. We really got off to a good start with it, and we have some additional things we're doing this year again, where we want to focus on some of those tier 2 strategies. By and large, when you think of tier 1, that's going to take care of 80 to 85% of your kids. But you're still going to have that 10 to 15% of kids who are going to need some additional support. And we want to focus on those tier 2 strategies and things that we can do to support our PBIS program, also known as our structure. So that kind of wraps up our goal 1. Again, that's in conjunction with the high school. And again, they have some nuances and some different things that they're doing just based on developmental levels, but we really try to develop some consistency with that. And then our second goal is our administration at the middle school will continue to develop a structure of student support for both academic and social emotional growth. We really took a look at our advisory program. That was a program that was in place for several years. And then when we went through COVID, there was some different changes that we had to make to that. We used to have kids used to have a mentor that would be with kids for a 3-year period. And that mentor would have 6th graders, 7th graders, and 8th graders. But with some of the COVID restrictions, we had to pull back on some of those things. So we took a look at our schedule this year. We now have a activity schedule which will allow us to have more time for advisory along with some of our STRIDE activities. And we have those allocated monthly on Fridays. So again, we're going to really look to have a consistent mentor that's in place for our students. So they have, when you come into a school from an elementary school, whether it's 250 kids at Manheim or 500 or so, and there's other middle schools, you come into a school with 1,000 kids, it can be overwhelming. But having an extra mentor in place really makes the school feel a little bit confidential and consider that person along with a guidance counselor who's in place for 3 years to support the kid, along with the assistant principal who follows the kid for 3 years. There's 3 adult advocates that are there to support the kid in a variety of ways. Again, this kind of ties into our first goal. We will continue to work with our STRIVE committee to develop those tier 2 strategies to support our kids behaviorally and social emotionally. A big part of that will be looking at a mentoring system. So, and looking to bring in some volunteers outside, some retirees who are interested in still giving back and working with kids. So that's something we're going to look at again this year. And then we had some personnel shifts at the middle school this year, some personnel allocations, and we're reimaging our reading specialist position a little bit and combining that into a student achievement coach. And that position is crucial to us at the middle school. That individual helps support both the academic and behavioral side of things, and really leads our student concern process, which is extremely important for us. Any questions?
Not a question, but a comment. In reference to the mentoring and reinstituting the mentoring program, I would highly recommend that you reach out to Pat Loss. She's been working very hard. I don't know whether she's spoken to you individually yet or not about that, but that's something that's near and dear to her. And she very much wants to be involved and to work with you to be able to make it grow into what it needs to be.
So along the mentoring, do you think it's going to be challenging finding enough mentors for what you intend, or do you have a bullpen ready?
It's a good question. Some of the individuals who were part of our program before, for whatever reason, one reason or another, did step away, but I feel very confident that we'll be able to get a good number of mentors. I mean, we're very fortunate in the community that we live in, that we do have a lot of people who are interested in giving back. And some of those people are just community members. Some of those people are ex-Mustangs that just really have a lot of pride in our school district. But we're really fortunate in that regard that as we advertise it, I feel confident that we'll be able to get significant number of people who are interested in coming.
Great.
Is that typically done, it's done during the school day?
Yes.
It's not an after school, okay.
No, it's during the school day. We strategically try to pull kids during our intervention period, so they're not missing a whole lot of their core academic time. But typically, it's best for us to meet the needs of those students during the time we have them here in schools, and that's been challenging to get them before or after school.
Great.
Thank you.
Cool.
As Dr. Smale said, in addition, we did work in collaboration with middle school. Dr. Friel developed our first goal, which, as Dr. Smale said, was our secondary admin team, 6 through 12. Is looking to develop and revise processes and systems, including time schedule, discipline, increased student support that allows for increased leadership capacity and time to support teaching and learning. We want to decrease office referral by 5%. So what we looked at too, in addition to what Dr. Smale said, is at the beginning of the year, for our first professional development with our staff, we looked at classroom management strategies. We want to see that consistency from classroom to classroom. We want to see those clear expectations, and we want to see that follow through. So that's what we really worked with our staff on the first in-service at the beginning of the year. We've continued to follow up in our next in-service, where they actually then brainstormed out areas that were concerning for them in their classrooms. And again, what was identified there was 3 areas that our teachers had concerns about cell phone use, our teachers had concerns about consistency from classroom to classroom, and follow through with expectations. So it kind of aligned with really what we were looking at the beginning of the year. So our plan is obviously to continue that professional development with our teachers. In addition to at the beginning of the year, Dr. Becker and Mr. Winters and I go over the expectations for students at the beginning of the year. We cover a lot of the consistent things we want to see from all of our students in the high school. And part of that process then is to track this throughout the year, empower our teaching staff to obviously handle the tier 1 things in their classroom, and tier 1 targeted class, or having your cell phone out, or not things like that are not coming to class prepared. So your tier one supports. And then if something rises to a tier two, that would be an office referral to one of us, really our assistant principals first, and then it would come to us to intervene at that point. But that's part of our first goal, and we've been working with the middle school too to align all those things so we can have that consistency from middle school to high school. Our second goal is similar again to the middle school, except for ours is actually the Mustang Ambassador Program. So our program is, again, we're going to have supports, mentors, but it's going to be not a mentor, it's going to be peer-to-peer. So what we're doing is we're working through our counseling department, and our counselors are identifying students that are willing to be mentors to especially our new students and our freshmen and so on. And then our counselors are working in conjunction with the high school admin team to set up monthly meetings with those students so they can have that peer-to-peer support. We can talk to them about any problems that are coming up in the high school for them, how to adjust or how to fit in, things like that, or what areas they can help them. So it's piggybacking on our old Mustang Mentor Program, which we continue to work with Pat Walls and so on, bringing those folks in to work with our students. But in addition to that, we're kind of rolling that next layer in and bringing the students in and having that peer-to-peer. So they're actually helping to work with their friends, not friends, but their colleagues, their peers in the high school. So that's part of our second goal, which is, again, very similar to the middle school. We can work with Dr. Spanel and Dr. Friedel on that, trying to align those. And then our third goals are individual goals for the high school. But the first two goals are the ones that we align. Anything that my two gentlemen here would like to add to that? I want to leave them out. Any questions on the two goals?
Yeah, okay, so I have one. So in identifying the tier one, tier two discipline, we've had a lot of discussion related to discipline and dean of students and all that. Do we have a clear identification of what level we're at tier one issues off? Like, are we identifying which we have more of, which is going up more, whether we're getting more tier ones, more tier twos?
So that's the data we're collecting this year.
Yeah.
Our goals at the end of the year, to compare that to the 22-23 school year and see where we land. But we had all the data from last year. I think we shared that with Dr. Burkhardt and shared it with the board members here. So you can look at the number of referrals we had last year to the office.
Yeah.
Some of them said teacher, and some of them obviously were higher level stuff like suspensions and things like that that would go to us. But that's what we want to look at the end of the year to see where, is this working, that consistency from classroom to classroom, the follow through, empowering the teachers to kind of handle those low level, if you want to call them that, discipline issues. And then, is that collective group coming together, decreasing our number of referrals? That's what we're hoping at the end of the year to see in the data.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I was sort of asking what drove you to look at the discipline decrease by 5%? Like what prompted you to look at that specifically as a goal? That's where I was getting, but
Yeah,
you
primarily,
answered. Yeah.
We just want to see that consistency across classrooms.
Because I also think we want to make sure that we are being able to be more instructionally based, instructional leaders. And one of the things that we identified over the summer at our goal retreat was that discipline was one of the things that was keeping us from doing that as part of our jobs. So we looked at how we could implement some different structures to help change that focus.
Thank you.
Yeah, free us up a little bit more to
Mhm.
how we instructional leaders in the classroom and we walk through some observations. So,
Understood.
and being involved in committees more.
Keith, how does their security staff fit into this in terms of their being out and about and seeing those disciplinary situations? How are they brought into this discussion? How are they involved?
Our security, our SSOs are very instrumental in that. They're our eyes and ears. They have great relationships with the students and the staff. So, obviously they have the camera systems too. So they're always watching, talking to kids, finding out what's going on. They don't have to be in the classrooms and in meetings and stuff like we do. So they're kind of our eyes and ears in the building, in the hallways between periods, looking for trouble, looking for issues that they can hopefully be proactive and cut off before it happens. But they're always very important. And then obviously when we do have discipline incidents that come up, they're very integral to help us move out and do investigations and find out on the cameras where was this kid, where were they supposed to be, what happened, and so on.
But are they brought into the discussion in reference to how to keep it a tier one and how their input on a daily basis interacting with those students can keep it a tier one before it elevates to a tier two?
Yes.
Okay.
And the great thing about our SSOs, they have a lot of de-escalation strategies. They already learned from prior backgrounds, law enforcement and so on, so they implement that all the time.
Does that get delineated down to the teacher level so the teacher knows that they're aware that there could be a situation that they've been confronted with outside of the classroom environment, but they need to be aware of to be able to keep an eye on in the classroom?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I just highlight one thing? Both Dr. Downs and Dr. Smale mentioned this is part of the action item related to this goal. And a very important part is that systems level leadership that they're really focusing on. So one of the domains of leadership the PA gives to principals is strategic and cultural leadership. Domain one really speaks to that. And the whole nature of this goal that they talked about is how could they put systems in place in their schools that would work to help reduce the discipline pieces, kind of what you were saying, Mr. Gilzo, the differences between tier one and tier two, really focusing on that as a leader and then allowing that to let them become more solid instructional leaders to support the instructional components of the school. And both Dr. Downs and Dr. Smale mentioned this, and it's really for all 6 of the secondary principals. We have regular ongoing discussions about, with me being involved in this way, how can we really strengthen that systems level thinking in this area so that we can really affect change, and implementing or empowering our teachers to help with management of things going on in the classroom. What can we do to support them so that the system's working well, so that we have a reduction in discipline, and then ultimately a much higher, more positive school culture. So I want to highlight that part.
Yes, and I want to put back on what Dr. Creel just said. I mean, there's 3 of us, so very hard for us to support the entire building without a system in place that helps us with that. So this system, obviously bringing all the teachers involved, our SSOs, our counselors, administrators, that's our goal, to have the system assist with this process.
I think the other thing that often gets forgotten is that the role of assistant principal and principal isn't just to put out fires. And when you spend your whole day in any job, in any career, putting out fires all day, every day, then you don't ever get to work on the other things that are truly what's important to your job, which is leading your staff. You see this in the corporate world all the time, and that's why people burn out. Because if all they're ever doing is walking around with a fire hose, then they don't feel like they're accomplishing something to move themselves forward. So I think putting these systems in place will also then reinvigorate the men and women in the positions. And if we're looking big umbrella picture, those who might be in our buildings, who might be considering going into administration, who are like, I'm not doing that because all I ever see them doing is running around like a chicken with their heads cut off. And there's so much more to the job. And I think the stronger we make our systems to support, from the custodians to the food service workers, to the paraeducators, to the PCAs, to the nurses, to the guidance counselors, to the teachers, to the administrators, that systemic positivity will allow the whole building to vibe better. But I think we all know there's work to be done, just like there is in every company across the country. So we're not special in that. One thing I would like to point out that I saw going through all of your goals, and don't hate me, but in each level, we have rewards, our STAR rewards, our STRIVE rewards. What is it at the high school? Yeah, the, what's it called? Model Mustang. Why are they all different? We teach our children at each level, and then they're going to the next building and they're learning a whole new set. And I'm sure it's just because it's a fun acronym. But if we think about it, if once a Mustang, always a Mustang, could we like come up with a new one that spells Mustang and just ride it all the way through? so that the kids never have to change it? Think on it. It's just an idea. Your goals are fantastic. Okay. But no, I mean, these are beautiful, but it was just something that I'm thinking, you're retraining these kids every time they go into a new level. And ultimately, I think they're saying the same things. So from the ground up, it was something that I noticed when we were walking the buildings, because the charts are beautiful and they're in the hallways and in all of the schools. But I'm like, these all say the same thing. They just say them differently. So I don't know. Just a thought.
Go ahead. So in examining the discipline and where we're going with that, one of the cautions I have is how much are we asking our teachers to handle the discipline? Do the teachers, and I'm sure we do to some extent, do the teachers have a clear understanding at what point they can forward a repetitive tier 1 student to tier 2? Do they have that, like, okay, I'm not going to have this daily every day. At some point, this becomes a tier 2. And do we have that clearly defined for our teachers so they know this isn't okay?
If it's persistent, it's continuing, then obviously it rises to our level.
Okay.
The kids putting their head down, refusing to start a day, day after day, after 2, 3 days, contact us, and then we'll have that conversation, set up a parent meeting, and bring in a counselor, sit down and talk to the whole group to find out what's going on.
Okay.
Thanks. Mr. Wareham, I believe you're next.
Well, Ms. Weaver, I got to keep riding it all the way through Mustang ride.
Before you start, because I'm a mom, right before this started, an ambulance went into your football stadium. No sirens, but lights. Is everybody okay?
There was a serious injury. Young man's on the way to York Hospital, so hopefully he's in good hands.
Okay.
Anyway, the first 2 goals, thanks to Mr. Friel, I piggybacked with the other high school. So the only athletic related goals are actually my step 3, which is my personal goals. The first one is to continue to monitor, refine, and oversee the development of our new girls wrestling program. The second one is to oversee the new middle school soccer program, and both of those things are because you guys were very nice and granted us the ability to have those programs. So this spring, the junior high soccer will be an intramural stage, and then next spring of 2025, there will be an official sport. Also, I would like to explore and assess the possibility of implementing a corollary adapted / unified athletic program within our district. And I would be working with Dr. Hahn, we had a brief comment about that. Some of the other school systems provide an athletic opportunity for our special needs children. And it's usually combined with regular education students. So try to look into that, talk to some other ADs at schools who have successfully done that, see where we can go with that. Another personal goal is to monitor and assist the further development of the esports club, which at the high school, it's a club right now. We're gaining ground, and I think with the renovation, there's going to be a big help with some of the facilities and all being very computer oriented. And then finally, just a personal goal, go to the state athletic director conference in March to work on my skills in leadership, communication, and administration, which I did last year, and it was very nice. Very, very good learning environment with other people in the world that feel your pain. They put out fires all day. That's what we're talking about. So those are my step 3 goals, and I'll be aligned with 1 and 2 with my high school friends, and number 1 with Dr. Schnell.
Yep, I have one. So over the coming year or 2 with the renovation going on, it's going to be a particular challenge for you running your sports out of the school. So are you establishing any oversight to, like, when they're facing challenges, that maybe you could better track what the challenges are so that we can adjust how we're renovating or to working around the renovation?
Yes, I have a pretty good relationship with Mr. Osborne, and I actually talked today on the phone about the fall of 2025 is when the gym is probably not going to be available. Probably we'll have to play high school volleyball at the middle school I have a very good relationship with them, and
There's no
as
real
the
challenge.
timeline changes or goes, I was teasing my other athletic director friends, like, we all send out maps so that everyone knows where to park and all that. And all the maps that I was new last year, and all my maps are now gonna be not very good because you're not gonna be able to park in the athletic park. So it's a work in progress, but yes, and the coaches have reached out to me with concerns, so as the timeline progresses, we'll try to navigate as best we can. There's gonna be some growing pains, and we're gonna have to shift some practices around and things like that, but hopefully it'll be good.
Okay.
Not a question, but it's a request for Wednesday night's meeting because of the scoreboard situation and how instrumental that has been. And we could see that the other evening. Can you please bring all the community members a list again that is announced and contact information for all the individuals that were involved or companies that were involved in allowing us to have that privilege? Thank you.
Can we change the brightness? Do we have the ability to adjust the brightness of the LEDs on the scoreboard? Or is that just a standard? So just as an aside, on Friday, and this may be why Wes is saying that, on Friday, it was lit up, it was beautiful, but you can't read the printed words on the sign. No, I know, because the red lights were too bright.
Right, we're trying to work with Mr. Osborne on that.
Okay.
We think we need some front lighting.
It's
We
beautiful.
also need front lighting on the flag as well. We want to leave it up all the time, so
Okay,
we think we need some front lighting. 'Cause a lot
Wonderful.
of the scoreboard that we bought does not have lit
right.
nameplates. So, yeah, when we were standing at the far end, you could see, I know what it says on the scoreboard, but Uncle John,
Right.
he doesn't know visitors there, Homer's there, first down and all that. Yeah, so we're trying to have a plan to front light, and we can adjust the brightness.
We just stuck with someone was winning and someone was losing on Friday, and it worked great. But no, it's beautiful. Thank you for all your hard work, and again, to the community members.
Good evening. So I have three goals. The first one I realize as I review it here is unfortunately heavy compared to the other two. But it's basically continuing to grow and expand and strengthen our special education programming across the district. The first one, the first two bullets, I will say, are the components that the board approved over the summer. So the opening of our first autistic support classroom at Manheim, which is already in the works. And then the second one is working with the IU over the course of this whole upcoming school year to work through transfer between entity for the other 5 classrooms that they currently operate within our district. So that's a lengthy discussion and collaboration between the district and the IU to prepare for that change. Additional steps in that regard for the overall development of special education would be development of a pre-referral process for academic and behavioral needs K through 12. We do have a referral process when we're at a place of referring to special education. This is sort of the step ahead of that. So it's the pre-referral steps, the things that you need to do in regular education before we consider a referral to special education. And then continuing to support our newer but existing programs such as intensive learning support, which is expanded to the high school this school year, and also our therapy and professional support, which we have K through 12, but it's an ongoing, it's a program with some needs. My second goal relates to our mental wellness goals we have as a district. The ongoing goal of developing a 3-tiered model for addressing mental wellness. So continuing to lead the mental wellness group with Dr. Burkhardt and Ms. Myers, continuing to just develop SAP K through 12. We're in year 2 of our universal screening pilot, and then monitoring and continuing to develop 3 tiers of our mental wellness model, monitoring where we are, filling gaps. We spend a lot of time vetting mental health resources, trainings, tools, because we're in this market along with a lot of other school districts. Vendors tend to know that and reach out to us on a regular basis with a variety of supports. So we spend a lot of time sort of vetting what's available and seeing how it does or does not fit our needs. And my third goal
We were fortunate to have Ms. Lynn Bixler with us for 32 years in the school district, and with her retirement, we have Mrs. Lori Wonders with us now, so really working with her on that transition into the school district. So she is new to us at Southwestern, but brings quite a varied experience, that is supporting us with some of the other goals that I have here, but supporting her in knowing our full special education plan and onboarding her and getting her oriented to the form.
So I have three goals to share this evening. The first one is really in collaboration with Dr. Friel and our elementary leadership team, focusing on the elementary side of it. Dr. Friel's goal, while I know he didn't share it this evening, has a little bit more of a secondary role in his because of our duties. Mine is more on that elementary side. So really establishing regular meetings with Dr. Friel on the curriculum instruction assessment. We redesigned, restructured our elementary leadership team, our grade level leaders. We've had them in the past where they really worked in isolation, where we just looked at elementary. We shifted some of their role of elementary curriculum to then also work with Dr. Friel's previous work with the secondary team of the curriculum liaison, and this year also with the department leads. We're bringing those two groups together at times, at various times of the year to work on K-12 initiatives and K-12, looking at our curriculum K-12. We have two books, Leading Modern Learning and the New Classroom Instruction That Works. Two books that are really the foundational piece of our curriculum writing process and what we do throughout the district. Also looking at our comprehensive plan, there's a couple goals within the comprehensive plan. They're K-12, looking at how we can implement those in that consistent manner from kindergarten up to 12th grade. My second goal is a heavy lift goal, and it was shared a little bit earlier about elementary. This is really kind of heading back into supporting the ELA initiative with our three core resources. While the principals are doing a number of things, I'm in support of that, and also coordinating the three companies with professional development, where we're having regular professional development with those companies, very good to work with, where they want to come in and support and give professional development throughout the year, because that was very important to us when we were selecting the resources, not just we do it one time in the summer and then good luck. They want to try it and meet with our teachers on a monthly basis. It is a lot to schedule throughout and with everything, but they've been very good to work with. So we have been working with that. We have our Volume 2 letters training on strategic literacy for our reading specialists. They went through Volume 1 last year, then Volume 2 this year, they'll go through with the IU. Conduct regular classroom visits and data collection and feedback from the teachers, because we are meeting on a monthly basis with those groups. Some of our grades are in full implementation of 4th and 5th grade. We're working with them. Others are in a pilot, so we have a smaller number of teachers with collaborative classroom and HMH in 2nd and 3rd grade. So trying to juggle all of these groups and trying to meet and make sure we're getting feedback, and also build a plan for full implementation for the following year. My third goal is supporting the elementary building principal team, where I'm meeting with them on a monthly basis. We typically have always met as a group, but in my new role, I'm meeting with them on an individual basis to talk about specific needs to their building and how I can support them, since obviously I am much more mobile than I was in previous years. So that's strictly the elementary principal and building principal, the elementary supervisor and building principal. So
working on doing that and also providing some professional development on that side as well for administrative team. Some based on needs of what they feel, others are what we feel as a group we want to revisit or move forward with. And we're also, will conduct monthly walkthroughs as a team, which is very powerful in the piece where we get an opportunity. And we also have some other central office administrators, if they're able to come, where we do walkthroughs as a team. We look at some instructional practices, identify them that the building principal may see or want us to look at, and then come back in dialogue following that. So we're going to do that. I think that's everything I have. Any questions? Thank you.
Good evening. I have 3 goals this year. My first goal is to look at our virtual program for Lincoln Edge to evaluate and make sure it's meeting our needs of our students and our families. This year I've been attending meetings at the high school, middle school with administration. Just to look at the program, look at how kids are attending there and their attendance and their grades and whether they're making progress successfully in the program. Looking at developing a guide and expectation for our families. Right now we have none, but we would like to develop that. So I'm going to work in conjunction with the principals to develop a guidelines of kind of if you decide to go virtual and we say yes to Lincoln Edge, what does that look like? What are the expectations? So that's my first goal. Any questions about the first goal? It's been a couple of years. I mean, when did we start? Dr. Fair was sort of overseeing it from my position.
I believe it was right in the midst of COVID. So 2020 is when we had established that contract for the fall.
So currently there's about a little over 80 students in the program this year, which is down from last year.
I am kind of curious, what are the biggest challenges that they face when they transition into that? What is the biggest gear shift for them?
I think that the pacing, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously this self, pacing, I think a lot of kids struggle to keep up sometimes with the work, depending how they're home life might be sometimes, or kind of parent support they have at home. I think that might be the biggest thing, because here you have very structured schedule, right? Structured classes.
Right.
That's more flexible. So I think sometimes falling behind in class can not be good for some kids. So.
Okay.
But again, I'm going to evaluate and look at it. That's why I want to kind of get involved and see what's going on.
Right.
Yeah, do you have any feel for how things are when they go remote with regards to access to the internet? Do you know that are there families out there that still have issues getting internet access
So I do
remote?
believe there is, and Lincoln Edge provides that with a hotspot or some kind of
Okay.
device that allows them to get internet. So
Okay,
there
good,
are a few families, I think, that use that service.
good, okay.
And then the next goal I have is to lead the district federal programs in collaboration with Dr. Cromer. This year, with Dr. Cromer's new position, he's going to be doing Title I a little bit more with the reading specialist, and I'm going to work in collaboration with him. One thing that we have to do this year and look forward to doing is actually create a parent advisory committee that would meet 3 times a year. Look at parent engagement and involvement in Title I. There's a lot of parent engagement when it comes to federal programs in Title I. Being part of making the policies, looking at what we're doing, working on those policies every year, reviewing them, parent-family engagement, having input with that. So there's a lot that parents get a lot of input into, but we want to make sure that we're creating that advisory community for ourselves. So that's one of the bigger parts of my goal. Then also looking at ESSER grant funding, art funding, working with Furman. I've been working with them a lot lately, looking at the ESSER funding that we have, making sure that we are spending it appropriately and then reporting that to the state. Any questions about that goal? Okay. Last goal is we use Sapphire as our student information system here at Southwest, and we have some turnover sometimes with our secretaries. Not very often, but sometimes. And when they come in, there's really no manual or really training that they get for inputting enrollment, withdrawal information, all kinds of information, graduation information. And so I want to create a sort of a manual or guide for those new employees. And so question, what do they need? What are you looking for? What do you need help with? And then creating that guide so they can have consistent data in our system. That's my last one. Any questions about that?
Thank you.
believe at this point it is now Mr. Furman who will bring us
Yes.
home with the
The
remaining
rest,
goals.
the remaining
correct?
goals,
So
correct,
he'll
that
be
is
done- Do
correct.
you need a glass of water?
No,
right?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good. All right, business administrator goals, you see there's 3 there. First one is develop a comprehensive long-term financial forecast for the district. Mainly that goal is, every year we prepare a 5-year budget for the school board at budget time. For lack of a better term, that budget's a quick and dirty budget. It's not, we just look at some numbers there. Jeff wants to develop that more as, looking at those numbers more in depth. So we provide that document to the board. Has more meaning behind it. So that's his first goal. His second goal is to serve as the president of PASBO for the year. He was elected into that role 2 years ago. So he'll be the president this year. He'll be out of the office a little bit more, attending other meetings, but and he's already started that. That started July 1st, is when that presidency started. And then his final goal is to provide high school students with shadowing opportunities. He and I, over the last several years, have had the opportunity to have a few high school students come over to the office, spend some time with us, see what we do, see what some of the folks in the business office do, those students that might want to go on to a business education. So we've done that for the last several years, and we'll offer that opportunity again this coming year. Any questions on those 3 goals for the business administrator? My 3 goals for the year are, first is to review and update school board finance policies. If you look at some of the finance policies that we have out there, they're from 2002, 2003, so they're about 20 years old. And some of them, the only thing that needs updated is just the date. We just need to have the board approve them again. But there are some policies that have changed. There's an investment policy that we need to update. There are, the state has, some of the requirements aren't quite as stringent as they used to be on what the district can invest in. So again, some of those policies just need to be looked at and updated. So that's my first goal, to do that for this year. Again, provide the shadowing opportunities for the students in the business office. Again, we've done that the last couple of years. And then my final goal is to obtain professional certification through PASBO. PASBO has a couple different programs where you can get certified as a school business official, school business officer, that type of thing. So I'm going to go through those programs and see which one would I would qualify for and do the work that needs to be done with that. It's something that Jeff had asked me to do the last couple of years, and so I'll go ahead and do that this year. Any questions on those 3 goals? Okay, Mr. Osborne's goals. Obviously, the big goal is provide district representation and oversight for the high school project. I'm sure that'll be 90% of his time will be spent on that project this year and the next couple of years. So that's his first goal. Second is also to offer some exposure to high school students for a career readiness goal. I know at times with the middle school project, he had a student or 2 who would attend some of the job meetings just to see what goes on in those meetings. I know he's talked to classes before and that type of thing. So again, he'll do that again this year. And if there's any students that are interested, I'm sure he would be more than happy to have them attend one of the job conferences that they have a biweekly basis for the high school project. Any questions there? All right, Director of Transportation, 3 goals for Brian this year. Update the vehicle preventative maintenance program. As all things, some of those things just need updated every so often. He's going to go through and look at that for this year. Develop alternative transportation plans. And this all came about a few years ago. Last year, he had something similar. And what that means is, say we have 15 bus drivers call in sick, or something happens where we don't have enough bus drivers. How do we get the students to school? That type of a plan. Do we contract with other Christ Transportation and some of the other ones that are out there? Just going to go through it and take a look at that and figure out what we would need to do if that situation ever arose. And you've seen some school districts have that issue. I think it was West Shore School District this year. They had an issue with transportation. So again, trying to nail down how we would handle those situations. And then the final goal there is to work with school counselors to have students shadow him for logistical items. How they set up the schedules and all that type of thing. So, and again, he's offered that before. I'm not sure if any students have taken advantage of that, but he has offered that prior years. Any questions on his goals?
So quick question on shadowing.
Yeah.
Both for Nate and for the bus. So Is that strictly a counselor puts that out to the students so they're aware? How do we let the
Usually
student
for all of
population?
that, we contact the high school guidance counselors and just let them know that we're willing to do that. And if they then let us know if there's any students that are interested in that. That's how it's happened. That's how we've approached it in the past.
And then they do that during the school day? Or they
Mhm.
take a portion of time out for
Yeah,
that, like a
yeah.
work?
That's how it's happened in the past. There was a student, I want to say 3 years ago, that was 3 years ago. He came over every Tuesday and Thursday for like an hour and a half, whatever period that was, and shadowed us for, I think it was majority of the fall semester. You know, one day he would be with Jeff, the next day would be with myself. Any other questions? Food nutritional services, 3 goals here. Plan to serve district-wide nutritious and well-maintained food safety and sanitation while serving our students during times of food shortages, certain deliveries, staff shortages, flexible menus, all while following USDA and PD Department of Food and Nutrition regulations under the National School Lunch Program. Very similar goal as to what she had last year, just making sure that the students are fed and trying to figure out when we do have those shortages of products, how we change the menu, how we make sure that we're following the guidelines that are needed. And that at times is a daily ongoing goal of hers and process that she has to go through. She wants to update all recipes and components in Premier Edge to match the government commodities and also the vendors that are currently being used under the National School Lunch Program. Those vendors unfortunately have changed over the last few years. There's some vendors that have fallen out of that program because they can't meet some of the requirements, and then other vendors who have come on. So trying to make sure our menus follow what's needed on the National School Lunch Program. And then finally, she also has a goal of mentoring, speaking in classes. I know she's done that. I know she's gone to PTA and PTO meetings in the past and spoken to parents. She's gone into classes and talked to them about meals, about the school lunch program and what the requirements are. So again, she'll offer that this coming school year. Any questions on her 3 goals?
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. She did speak at our PTO meeting and it was wonderful, but one of the things she mentioned is that she's getting a lot of requests from parents as to how to make what they're feeding the children at lunch because the kids are coming home and asking for it was like a chicken quesadilla crunch wrap or something. So she said she was going to utilize the Facebook page to also post some of our recipes so parents can replicate at home, which I think is very neat because some kids are very picky. So I think that's wonderful.
And finally, we have our Director of Technology. Doug has 3 goals this year. Again, provide students shadowing opportunity within the technology department, an ongoing goal. I know there's been actually a couple of years where students have actually worked in the high school tech ed area, helped Joe over there with some of the repairs. So again, he'll offer that up. Students that want to do that certainly will be welcome. Implement a cybersecurity protection measures to align with the K-12 6 Essential Cybersecurity Protections version 1.2. I'm not sure what all that means, but basically, he wants to make sure that our district is secure on the cyber side. And I know he's been doing a lot of that in the last actually year. He's just going to continue that. I know there's some programs at the IU. He's talked with some of the directors through the IU. I think there's actually some things that he's going to be purchasing here in the next little bit that are some softwares that will help in that role. And then the final one is to develop transition process to prepare for a new director of technology. So I think, Doug's plan is probably next year will be his last year. So I don't know if that's official yet, but obviously he has that as one of his goals to develop a transition plan. Any questions on his goals?
One quick question. When we talk about the shadowing, and Matt kind of touched on this, would this be the type of situation when you go to the guidance counselors in the high school where they're drawing on all those artifacts that have been collected through the years, through the counselors as to what children might want to do in the future, so they can kind of draw back on all those facts along the way to pull a kid who might be interested in technology or a child who might be interested in facilities or things like that? Is that the type of, we would use that data collection, or is it more of like a posted job board type of thing? Do we know? It's the artifact. That's awesome. I know they start collecting those artifacts because I had the honor of sitting on the guidance counselor panel for a while, and they talk about how they start that as early as elementary school, kind of having the children do different types of things that would help kind of flesh out what might you be interested in. And then they bank those as they go from building to building, so that as by the time they get to the high school, I'm sure some of them have changed. Probably very few of us work in what we thought we were going to do in elementary school. But I think it's a really neat way to kind of move forward with all these pieces of, or maybe it's evidence.
Yes, it is.
Is it
It's
evidence?
certain,
I apologize. I
yeah,
used the wrong word.
certain pieces of evidence
Okay.
that we have at the elementary level. Yes, you can, there's a variety. You can either keep hard copy or digital. Digital is obviously easier, that we can then transition to the middle school and then they build upon that. So.
I think that's wonderful.
Mhm.
Well,
We're in a unique situation this time that we have many new administrators to our team. We have been talking all night about consistent expectations, guidelines, mentoring, plans, career development, career and professional development. I'd like to know how you all feel being new to these roles, being new to this process, if we're doing enough to support you at this level.
we being the board. Oh,
And it's interesting because some of you are coming with new perspectives. The gentleman that is approaching the mic right now is coming from a different perspective, coming from a different school district. And I'd just like to get an idea as to whether we're doing enough or what we need to work on to help you better do your job. And to, not to cut you off, and to also to know whether we're providing enough emotional support. We provided for our students. Do we provide it for our staff to make sure they're the best person they can be to be there for our students?
I think I would say, first of all, I was very surprised and it was welcoming that we had our meetings with Dr. Burkhart to begin with. That is something that had not happened in my previous setting, and I feel bad, like I'm gonna stand here and give you drawing comparisons from my previous setting. But I think some of the things that are in place as far as those are concerned, so whether it be having those meetings that are taking place and getting to hear the other folks and what they're going through in that setting, and some of their viewpoints, because they were coming from different places as well. And when we put those together, I think you have a stronger foundation of the things that are there. I think that the support systems for our teachers and the things that are spoken about and the opportunities they're given for some support is very strong compared to some of the things that I've seen and taking place in my old setting. So again, I know Mr. Calzada talked about not overdoing or putting too much on the teachers as far as that, but I think the word empowering came up, and I do think that's important because I think some people get into a place, for example, where they need to take their classroom back sometimes. And I think they're being given that power to do so that they're hearing a strong voice in their classrooms as well. So I think I do like the look of that secondary goal that we have that's together because I think we need to put the power back in their hands as well. So I think from top to bottom, nothing's perfect and always a work in progress, but I think the things that are in place as far as recognizing that people that are new or even have been here for a while continue to need support is definitely in place. Thank you.
I think, I'll echo what Mr. Becker said. Going through the process now on the administrative side of goal setting and working with a really collaborative team, it was great to actually have a say in what are our goals going to be for our students, not just, see them from the teacher side. So I really enjoyed that process. And as Nate said, one of my favorite things that I've experienced so far in feeling mentored is getting to meet with Dr. Burkhart as the central admin team to just let them know how we're doing. I think something I was shocked at coming into this role is it's lonely. I'm accustomed to having a team of and a department of people, and coming into this role, Jake's wonderful. He's wonderful. Jake is great. He is so kind and generous. It's not like he shuns me when I say I'm lonely. It's not that. It's just a different feel. And the burnout can be real. So I think coming into this new for me is reminding myself to give myself some space and being okay to reach out to the rest of the admin team. We haven't really had the opportunity to do that a lot. So I think the more we have the opportunity to do that, I think I'll start to feel
a little bit more a part of a bigger group, but right now, you know, day in and day out, my West Manhattan ponies are great. I mean, I've gone out and bought new wardrobe just to show off my yellow. So that was really part of that family. Administrative wise, you know, it's easy to get caught up in things, but so far, I'm enjoying it. Starting to feel at home.
Do you feel that the program that you went through to prepare you for this, were you prepared for day one? And what could we?
Day one, yes. Day 8, no. I went for IUP for my admin internship, and it was a really fast-paced course. I feel like, and I told Jake this last week, I feel like I'm learning more things on the job than I would have ever been able to during my internship, that I wasn't prepared for. But I think that's with any job. I mean, I reflect on that as a first-year teacher. I thought I knew things coming in after a semester of student teaching that I had no idea what I was doing. So I think, coming into it, I was as prepared as I could be. And I'm just working with the team right now that gives me the grace and space to make mistakes, and that I'll get better as I make more mistakes and learn from them.
Thank you.
John, Dr. Bond, sorry.
Sorry.
I think the other thing to remember, and this actually is for everybody, but 2 things in every situation can be true. Jake can be wonderful and it can still be lonely. So both of those things are true. And I think the higher you go anywhere, the lonelier it gets. And that's because so much more is on your shoulders. But I hope that us sitting here tonight reminds you that we are so appreciative of all of you and what you do. And as lonely as it is, we're here twice a month and we're always available if you need us. Because it does get very lonely at the top. And it doesn't matter if you have a fantastic team. The people at the top take the most on, and you own it and you take it home and you bring it back, and it's early mornings and it's late nights. And we are so appreciative of that. So thank you very much. I appreciate you.
We're also very appreciative of the new perspectives that you all are going to be bringing to add to the team and make it even better than it is right now. So thank you for your willingness to step up into these roles and take on that additional responsibility that a lot of people don't want to do. Thank you.
Along those lines, not to add to your mountain of catch up, but I think it's important with the new perspectives, when we see the gaps that you didn't get initially to prepare you, I think we're best served to identify those as you guys are going through it, to identify where we could mentor the next one better. I think you guys have the unique opportunity in that regard, because you're just coming into it, whereas an administrator's been in there years isn't going to remember what those initial challenges were, right? So not to add to that, but if you guys could give us a feel for that, like what did we miss on the mentoring that we could add to in the future?
And I think in the meeting that we had with Dr. Burkhart, we were able to voice those things. Like, here's some things that we think might be really good for next time. And I appreciate that they're being open to that idea, so that it will,
Great.
as we bring more people in, process will be a lot of time.
So we are doing that.
I'm really happy that they allowed us to do that.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
The one thing that I'm hearing from everybody is there is a line of communications. Now, it might be a very minor or very little one, but it's something that we need to, the board, we need to hear from you folks. Not just you folks, administrators, but teachers as well. So we need to communicate with you. You need to communicate with us, so that, you've got something you bring to a board member. The board member talks to me, I talk to Dr. Burkhart or whoever the necessary person might be, so we can get some action if action's necessary. We want to support you in every particular way we can. So the communications is a very, very important piece of us working together to support you. So don't feel bad if you have something on your mind and you want to raise a little ruckus. If, you've got our emails, you got phone numbers, you can definitely call and I'll listen, and we'll see what we can do to move things along in the right direction. Sir, go ahead.
Yeah, I think, asking that question says a lot about the support we're getting right now. I don't know if they would agree. But coming from my previous district, I don't know if I've ever been asked, how can we help you more, or what supports can we offer more? So I think that says a lot. Dr. Burkhart meeting with us sitting down. I think there's always that open line of communication. It's been fantastic so far. Like, I think Nate said it best. Obviously, there's, nobody's perfect, so there's always things we can all change. But I think it's been great with Jeff and Becky also allowing me to have a voice in the process early on, asking questions and allowing me to ask a ton of questions. So, yeah, thank you all so far.
Everybody good? Good, because my Eagles are playing right now. All right, that being said, I would like to make a motion. Hold on, are we done? Yeah. Oh, no, there are no visitors. Do I need to ask the visitors if they'd like to speak? Okay. You all have done an amazing job. We've said it and we'll say it again. We're very, very grateful for all of you. I know it's been a very long day. Please go home to your families. I'd like to adjourn the meeting at 7:32. Okay, go home. For point of reference, the Eagles are the